Marhaba, salam, and welcome to the Habibis podcast. Three game developers drinking good Arab tea. I'm your host, Fawzi Musmar.
And I'm Rami Ismail.
And I'm Osama Darius.
Well, I'm glad we got this one started today.
It took a while.
I mean, well, why? What happened, Ronnie? Why?
You
What
know
happened?
you know what happened,
We're definitely recording this on Arab time. This is definitely.
I mean, we got it started on a Sunday as we wanted to record it.
Bonus
We've
points
only
for
hit
same
the
day.
same time to start. It's like the same day, same time every week. And somehow we always start like 10 minutes late. But this one is special. We're like 45 minutes in, and I think we're out of time. It's like this was a good episode.
Let's wrap it up. No, I mean that's a little standard.
Right.
As like growing up, whenever we needed to go somewhere, I come from a big family. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but I have 4 sisters and 3 brothers. We're 8 kids, and my mom, my dad is a don't worry, laid back type of person. So whenever we had to be somewhere at, let's say, like 6 p.m. or something like that, my mom, as soon as we woke up, she'd like prepare our clothes and set the order of who's taking showers and all that stuff. And she's running around the house making sure things are ready. We have to bring something, as we discussed before, even though we were told not to. So she has something in the oven or whatever it is. And my dad is sitting down sipping tea, watching TV or doing whatever, up until about 5 minutes after the time we were supposed to leave, when my mom is like, "Oh my God, we're going to be late." And he's like, "We're late." He just makes this announcement. He gets up. He's like, "We're late. Let's hurry." That is Arab Standard Time. My issue is I kind of inherited both those traits. I hate being late. I try to be early as much as possible, but I'm also super laid back. So I do the 5 minutes before the time, panic and rush because I don't want to be late. I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't know where you land on this.
Oh, I'm firmly in the Arab time side. Like I'm never late. I'm never early. I'm always late though.
So not like Gandalf.
No, totally like Gandalf. Gandalf is just saying it so he gets to be late, and that's kind of what I like. But like, I think the thing is just like. And it's a strange thing, but I think time just works differently there, right? Like time just works differently in the Arab world. It's not as, I mean, there's definitely situations where you want to be punctual and where you want to be on time, but for most social engagements, there's sort of like an unwritten contract that if you say like we're going to be there at 4 p.m. to record a podcast, then showing up at like 4:20 something is still acceptable.
That's
right?
a very random example, not based on any kind of reality.
Yeah, no, and I always found that fascinating because my mother is Dutch, right? And the Dutch are extremely punctual. So I grew up like Osama in a family where time was treated very different. I remember we had to go to a wedding once, and I was a kid. I must have been like somewhere between 6 and 8. Really young. And all I remember is my mom just be like, "Okay, we need to go. We're going to be late." And my dad's just like, "It's fine. Like, just relax. Like, they're not going to start at, 6 or whatever it was." And I just remember my mom just being so stressed out about being on time. We were, not a big family like Osama's. We were 3 kids.
That's still big.
It's enough to manage for mom that, sometimes I felt for her having to manage all that. But my dad would just be sitting reading the newspaper while mom was like, make sure that she was dressed up well. She's obviously in a different culture, so she wanted to make sure that everything was right and that she was dressed right and that she wasn't being disrespectful. So she was making sure that she had all the cultural cues. And my dad was just sitting around, and he would go like half an hour late. He would go, "It's time to go." And then we'd get there, and they're still setting up chairs. They're just like, "Oh yeah, hey, well, good that you're here. Like, come help. We need to set up that stuff." And my mom's like, "Are they still preparing?" I mean, that's like, "Yeah, we start like 2 hours after the invitation."
Easy. That's the confusing part about like having these events here in Canada, like where like Arab weddings or things like that, where about half the people show up exactly on time, and the other half show up after the food was served because people don't know what to do anymore.
I did notice that, like outside of the Arab world, people apply the Arab time when they're invited to house parties. So like somebody invites you over to their place and says like you need like a party starts at 5. No one wants to be the only person that shows up at 5. Well, like
Right.
you're awkward. The host is like, oh, so you're here on time, and now it's just the two of us waiting for everybody else to come in. So everybody like if the house party is starting at 5, everybody like would show up at 7.
Yes.
7:20, or they will meet up with a bunch of people so that they come out together on time, so that they don't have to.
So
do
it's less
this.
awkward, exactly.
Yeah, so that's the standard of Arab timing. You don't want to be the first person there waiting. So
Right. I
so
think
make
maybe we
everybody
just
else
consider maybe we just consider everything a party.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's how most of us behave anyway. So it's
exactly. Man, I had it like I'm like Osama. Like I used to be quite chill with time. Used to be like without some occasional things that happen every now and then. But I'm much better with time now. It hit me the most when I moved to Japan, and there like timekeeping is super important. So I'm like I have a meeting at 4. I'm going up the stairs at like 3:55, and I'll be there on time. And like my Japanese colleague who starts calling me 15 minutes before the meeting starts, like, where are you? It's like 15 minutes to the meeting and you're not there. It's like, yeah, well, it's in 15 minutes. I'm finish the shisha and head over there in a bit. And like for them, it's like, like there's a Japanese saying and it kind of stuck with me. It's like, if you're on time, then you're already late.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so like it kind of like stuck with me, and I've been like, timekeeping has been a thing that I maintain. And yes, it's a bunch of Arab people.
Right. I would like. I think the Arab version of that would probably be like, if you're 20 minutes late, you're already early.
That's very true.
I will say the way I've learned to deal with this, because obviously like I ended up running a company, I ended up having lots of meetings. The way I handle it now is I ask whether people want to meet on Arab time,
yes,
or on Western time, and like that is literally the question, and somehow everybody always gets it. Right. Yes. Everybody immediately goes, okay, so do you mean are we going to be strict and punctual, and the meeting goes from exactly 4 until 5? Or are we going to start somewhere between 4 and 5 and it's going to go until 8? Right.
That's perfect. So I have the most extreme example of this that I have is one of my friends who invited us to iftar, like, when you break your fast in Ramadan, one year to his house and was late. And like when you're talking about iftar, like everyone is waiting. This is the only time Muslims are punctual, because this is the only time it's universal where they're looking at the clock. They know exactly the second that they can break their fast. And this person showed up late because he was like, oh, I forgot to buy something, so I guess I'm going to go out 5 minutes before everyone shows up. It's fine. My wife will let everyone in. And she did. And she was a gracious host. And she's like, well, I don't know what to do now. Do we serve the food or do we wait for him to come back? And we didn't know what to do. He showed up. We were a little annoyed, but Arab time, it's fine. Yeah. The next year he did the exact same thing. So we just stopped going to his house for iftar. That was the solution.
That's also a very Arab solution, to be honest. Yeah. This person annoyed us around food once. Yeah. We'll give him one more shot. But if he messes up our food one more time,
it's over.
Yeah, he comes to our house.
Like the Arab time could probably like associate with other things in our culture. Like for example, waiting for the bus, and then I look at the bus timetable, and then the bus actually showing up on time. I think was one of like the biggest culture shocks I've had after I left Jordan. I was like, like the timetable goes like the bus is gonna be here at some point, and like there's a number there. The number is to give you like yeah, exactly. It'll give you like a general frame of reference about like the 3-hour time window in which that bus is gonna appear. But not the specific time. And I can remember, like, I think in New Zealand, it was the first time I got encountered this. I was like waiting for the bus to go to work on my first day. And like, it says 9:18 or something like that. Like, a ridiculous minute. It's not like 20, it's 18 or 17 or something like this.
Right.
And then the bus shows up on the dot. And I'm like, wow, what happened? What happened? So does that mean I need to be here on time every morning unless I miss the bus?
So my experience with that was the opposite, because I grew up, most of my conscious growing up happened in the Netherlands, and I would go to Egypt like 2 or 3 months a year. But for me, buses were always punctual, and then I go to Egypt and there's a bus stop and it's just a sign that says bus stop. And there isn't really a time schedule anywhere to be found anyway. You just stand there until the bus shows up, inshallah. And then, there's 2 or 3 people. So you ask one of them, like, when's the bus? And they're like, it usually shows up in about 15 minutes, but traffic. Like at the flip side, I was in traffic in Cairo, and cars just wouldn't move. And the cars there, a lot of klaksoning.
Yes.
Like, a lot of honking. And so we're standing there, and like just the slowest trickle of movement. And eventually we get to this intersection, and there's this guy yelling, right, at a bus that is parked, I kid you not, pretty much in the middle of that intersection, as the bus driver is walking back from one of those street side stands where he bought some food. And he just ended up putting the bus in the middle of the intersection.
Oh my God.
I guess traffic had stopped moving, and he'd been in a traffic jam, and he was just like, I'm just going to hop out real quick and grab some food for lunch. And then traffic started moving again, I guess. So his bus was just the only thing standing in the middle of that intersection.
Oh my God.
That was like, as you're telling the story, it hit me this realization of like, like that guy leaving the bus there in the middle of the intersection and going like, I probably have enough time to get food and come back before
Exactly.
the street goes by. And it's the same mentality of like any Arab goes like, my appointment's at 4, I'm gonna leave at 4 and still make it on time.
Exactly, because that's how time works, right?
Yeah, maybe deep down we are like the most optimistic nation on the planet. It doesn't show in our faces at all, but
it shows in our timekeeping.
It shows in our timekeeping. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just always staggering, because people always go like, isn't that a little disrespectful? But it's not, right? Like,
yeah, it's about an intention behind it. The intention isn't to disrespect anyone. The intention is really to do right. It's like, okay, I'm going to go fast. I'm just going to leave this here, and I'm going to go eat because I need to eat because my shift is really long. Like the focus is not on, I don't care about everybody behind me. So like the disrespect isn't there because the intention isn't there.
I think also time is just, it's of a different priority, right? Like, yes. I think the humans end up a higher priority than the clock, right. Which I don't know. Like, it's such a different way of living that it's really hard to explain how it works. And like, it's not to say that all Arab time is Arab time, right? There's definitely things that we're punctual for, like work-related stuff or something. You know, if it's important, we'll be there. But yeah, no, in general, like you said, if you call somebody, if I call an Arab friend and it's like, hey, it's 4 p.m., we agreed to be there at 4 p.m., they go like, oh yeah, I'm on my way, and they mean like I'm getting out of bed right now, and as soon as I find my socks, I will try and start searching for my shoes. And then I'll be on the way.
Yes. It's always the socks, isn't it? And you can hear it in the person's voice. They're like, where are you? It's like, I'm on the way. It's like, no, you're not. I hear your mom yelling at you in the background.
It's kind of wonderful, honestly. I don't know. I've always appreciated that version of. I like that because it's not just the starting time, right? It's also the ending time of things.
Yeah.
If you're gonna hang out and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this from 4 to 5, you're like, you have to be sitting there at 8. Yeah. There's no way you're leaving at 5. If you're leaving at 5, you might as well just like, burn the house in this respect. And you're be like, well, this was an awful party. I'm headed out already. Like, you just don't.
I mean, in Iraq, it changes. Like the way your day is structured, even your work day changes phenomenally between like winter and summer. Like even like in summer, it's hot. It gets incredibly hot. So a lot of people split their work day where they work in the morning and then they go home, during the lunchtime where it's hottest and try to cool down because no work is going to get done at all. And then they come back to work later and then they spend the night outside when it cools down. Like the markets are open till 2 or 3 a.m. And then you wake up whenever you wake up from that. And then you go to work in the morning for a little bit. And this shifts in winter. In winter, it becomes more condensed. And you go to work for a big long block of hours because you don't need to go home. It's not very hot, and you stay out much. Like, so time is fluid, and it's fluid in order to accommodate people, right? So for convenience, it's not rigid or structured in the same way.
I kind of miss like when they used to be dinner time at 11 p.m. and you just show up and like the streets are full with life and everybody, there's kids running around and stuff, and it's almost midnight and people are having. at 2 a.m. go like, hey guys, you want some food? And then they rock up and have some food because it's like you said, the time completely shifts.
Same thing in Cairo, right? Like during summer, the days are split, and 2 a.m. is social time. It's where you're just hanging out, and we'd go to these nadis. Do you have the idea of nadis in Jordan and Iraq, or
is it like a club?
So it's not like a dancing club; it's a social club. So there are these places where Egyptians will go and they'll hang out, but it's mostly like a terrace with a restaurant and some facilities, right? There might be a cinema or sports fields. Most of them are themed around a certain subject. So I'm a member of Nadasid and another one, and it's like a shooting club, I guess. Like they have clay dove shooting. I don't know how I ended up a member of that one, but I guess part of my family is, and the interesting thing I think is that that's where we would end up most days, and we would just have a food, and they had some sports fields. There was another neti that I was a member of where we could go on boat trips on the Nile.
Wow.
And it was just
that sounds like a country club, but you're saying it's also for people who don't have money,
right? So that's kind of the idea. It's sort of like that's actually exactly it. It's sort of I mean, they go to pretty exclusive, but in general, they're kind of like, I feel like pretty much everybody has a neti that they could go to if they want to hang out. I'm not sure if that's true, but it's definitely how I've always lived my my life. And I'd play soccer, and in one of the clubs they had a tiny like caged soccer field, so the ball wouldn't end up in the Nile, But like same thing, you'd say like we'll be there at 8 or 9, after dinner, and then you show up at 11 because dinner was at 10, and then you hang out, and then at 2 you get one more bite and you go to bed, right?
Yes.
I always liked that version. It almost feels romantic to me, right? Like the sort of the romantic notion of time should adjust to the people rather than people should adjust to the time. And here in Europe, in the Western world, I feel like the only time we do it is daylight savings, and it's like the most formulaic, bureaucratic way of making time adjust to people. It's like,
and no one likes it. Everyone like reacts to it negatively.
We'll shift it formally by 1 hour. It's like, let's just all agree that everything is an hour later now.
Good luck with that. We have a hard time agreeing on which plug shape we should have in our home.
That's true. That's true.
I wanted to say that it's so funny that we were talking about how we were like Arab time being late into stuff. And we were like being late into starting this podcast, how we actually like, we talk about what games we've done and stuff we've done over the week, and we've only done that 20 minutes late. So
right.
20 minutes into the podcast. If you're listening for the first time, we usually actually talk a bit about games before we get into a divergent. So this time we just got into the divergent first before we talked about games.
We'll see how things
This is
go.
why we add inshallah to everything we do in this podcast. It's like we have legal protection against us being binded to anything.
Right. I think we made good choices there. Rami,
have you played anything other than, like, you got the new computer, right? You've played anything other than Flight Simulator, or like you watched something on it, or like did you what's the modern day crisis to test your new machine?
That's Flight Simulator. Yeah, that's Flight Simulator. I think it's one of the most demanding games out there on the market right now. If I play in VR, I have a 3090 in this computer, right? One of the I think the best graphics card you can have right now in a computer. I have a relatively new, relatively new. I have one of the newer generation processors in there. In VR, like, I have to put it on medium to hit 30 frames per second, right? Like, this game is intensive. Yeah. But I will say it looks beautiful when you do that. No, I will genuinely. I have not done anything else on this computer. I play my games mostly on PlayStation, and the computer is my workstation. So if you're a game developer, you kind of want a computer that can handle with the punishment of unoptimized games.
Yeah,
because you don't optimize stuff until near the end. At least as an independent developer, optimization is relatively late.
Oh, even in AAA, it comes as late
Yeah.
as you can
Right,
possibly bring it in.
If it
Yeah,
comes early, you'll just stuff more things in, and then then you
right.
need to optimize again.
exactly.
On PlayStation, I've wrapped up on Hitman 3,
Uh-huh.
and I thought it was very good. Uh, it
Hmm.
I will say I did feel the
Good.
game was a little bit front loaded, so the best levels are near the start. Um,
Okay.
Definitely the Dubai level is incredible, and then there's a level in Dartmoor where, without spoiling too much, it's this big grand mansion where a murder has taken place,
Uh-huh.
and you can approach the mission in Hitman style in every way you can possibly imagine. But one of them is obviously a detective has been called in. Um,
Hmm.
and you can absolutely take the role of the detective, and the game just turns into this wonderful game of Clue.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
so they
Like Knives Out.
right, a little bit, and it has that sort of atmosphere. It has the like weird family relationships. You don't have to approach a mission that way. Obviously, you can just go in and like murder, or you can like set up accidents or whatever. But I feel like they did a really good job on like the little mission stories, right? The unique ways of approaching every mission. Um,
Yeah.
the ones that are good in this game are exceptional, and the ones that are not good are pretty fun.
Hmm. Wow. So that's a high bar anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Remind me again your recommendation for jumping into Hitman now that I haven't played one since I think whichever one came out 10 years ago. Should I jump in with the new Hitman 1, new Hitman 2, or straight into 3?
So I last week I said that some of Hitman was included in this one, right? And it turns out that
Yeah.
yes, that's correct. I saw those menu options correctly. The way it works is with an access pass system, so you can actually buy Hitman 2 and Hitman 1 in Hitman 3 and access those.
Okay.
Now, the basic idea of the story is not super complicated, right? Hitman is an assassin, and he works for this shadowy organization that there's another shadowy organization that is hostile to it, and you end up in the middle of it and having to figure out what is happening, basically. I feel like the Hitman story was never like sort of the high point. It's a puzzle game, right? So
Mhm.
if you want to start, Hitman 3 is as good a place to start as any. And if you enjoyed it, you can always go back and play Hitman 1 and 2 because you'll probably play it for the little puzzles and the fun little experiments.
Excellent.
I second that because I started Hitman last week as well, and I jumped right into Hitman 3. And man, um, like I remember like we talked last week and we said that it's hilarious. Like I was like laughing the entire time. It's like one of the few times I've never really like streamed anything, but I was like I need to stream this because this is hilarious. Like at some point, I think in the tutorial mission. I was carrying rat poison, and I'm still like trying to figure out the controls. So I think, and like if you're carrying an item, either the item is holstered or not, right? And you can press so you can press a button to like put it back in your pocket, or you can press another button to drop it.
Right.
So I'm disguised as I'm in disguise, and I'm walking in front of like a bunch of police officers, like the security of that place, and I like press the button. I like here he is like walking around with the rat poison out,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, which button was I need to hide this before they see it, and I press the wrong button, and he drops the rat poison on the ground, and the security guards goes like, hey buddy, you dropped something. And I'm like, oh, never mind me. That's just my rat poison.
Yeah.
I can pick it up quickly and like run away.
My apologies, sir. Let me just pick that up real quick.
That's like
It's
shooting
just
my
my rat
horse in Red Dead all over again every
Oh
time.
no.
There's so much of this stuff that is goofy. Like I think yesterday I finished the Dubai map, which
Right.
I agree with Rami. It's incredible.
Except,
And I saw
the
the
Arabic.
Arabic yeah, the Arabic text stuff that you mentioned. There were some rooms that were like, oh, how are they going to translate that? And there was like no translation.
Right.
I was like, all right, makes sense.
I mean, that's a smart way of doing it, to be
Yeah.
honest. If you don't know how to translate it, just don't
don't do
translate it.
Exactly.
Translated. It's kind of funny, like so like every time I think oh man, I'm walking around this room and I'm like just find this like they've done this build up in the story about who this guy that I'm supposed to kill is and like how dangerous he is and all of this stuff. And then right next to him, as he was walking around, I'm like trailing him and trying to figure out what's going on. And on one of the tables, I see a banana. And I grab the banana. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this banana, but I'm gonna hold this banana. So here I am, like dressed up in like super like high-ranking officer thing with the banana in hand, and then like a dude sees me. Like there's some of the soldiers in Hitman that they don't recognize you, but some of them that they should recognize everybody and their staff. They will. So from a distance, he saw me and he was like, "Yo, what's going on?" And I'm like, panic in this mode, as I do in all stealth game. Panic, so I start clicking everything. So I basically like lifted up the banana, and turns out I can slam it in the guy's face
Right.
and knock him unconscious for a second. If it was a bit like, you can use the same button if it was an apple or a soda can, and that would knock a person unconscious.
Right.
But in my case, the banana just like annoyed him.
He's like, huh?
Huh? It's just so many hilarious moments like this. And at some point, I'm like dragging a body across, and I'm like, I'm gonna hide this body over this fence where nobody can seize it.
Yeah.
And as I dumped the body, I discovered that I dumped this in the middle of an exhibition.
Right.
And there were like 5 people there, and everybody was like, crime spotted. I was like, wow. How did I get
Rosie, you'd make a terrible hitman. Just saying.
Yeah. He's just like, let me just dump this over this fence here, and it's just like the police office, you know. He's just like, what?
It sounded quiet. It was quiet enough. I was like, I'm gonna just dump it here and continue my sneaky mission.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And then throw bananas at people. I don't know. I'm like, my stories are like, I'm sneaking around the building, hacking a safe, finding a security guard, triggering the fire alarm, and then sabotaging the parachute of the guy escaping. Like, that's my stories. And your stories are like, well, I dumped a body over a fence into an art exhibition, and then when the guards showed up, I slapped them with a banana, which annoyed them.
You should definitely start streaming these, Fauzi.
But like there was this yesterday, like there was this 2 guards, and this guard is going on this like patrol cycle. So he goes to like the soda machine, pretends to buy a soda, never buys a soda, and then walks back and stands next to a classroom. And there's another guard by the soda machine. So first time he's standing next to the classroom, and I was like, is this a window or a 2-way mirror? So I was like, I'll strangle him and see. Detected, reload. Open. And then like he kept on like, and like I just realized that this patrol cycle was so small that I got really frustrated at him, and I couldn't just move past this. I need to kill this guy. So I just got inspired by his patrol cycle and just grabbed the soda can and slammed it in the other guy's face, and I choked both of them and hid them behind the soda machine. So I called that my soda assassination, and that's how I got my disguise.
I love it. That should give you an achievement, soda assassination.
It should be like soda in the face. It has to be something around that.
It's a very good game. It really is.
I can't wait to try
Yeah.
it. It's on my list, but as you know, we're on the same boat. Our backlogs are growing.
Right.
I keep adding games that I'm playing and not finishing any. So, well, I'll get there.
What are you
eventually.
playing?
So I made progress in Cyberpunk. I have no idea where I am, and I'm not going to spoil it. But
You're probably at the thing where some stuff
happens exactly there. How did you
There's
know,
some
Rami?
stuff remaining before more stuff happens.
Are you
Right.
two spying on me?
Yes.
Stuff.
Also made progress in Days Gone, and Days Gone is really growing on me. I started off saying thinking, okay, this is fine. It's a zombie game, and I can play this. And now I'm actually really liking the main character, and that's I questioned initially why he was a motorcycle guy, and now I understand really why. Like that. That contrast between what you would expect from someone with that stereotype to be like and the character that they're actually building, I think it was actually powerful and meaningful to me. So I'm enjoying it. I'm still playing it. I feel like I'm maybe about halfway through, but I like the story arcs and I like the structure. One of my favorite things about it, it's an open world game where I don't necessarily know which of the missions are main story and which are not, and I can't really see the thread of which ones initialize which. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just this vague tapestry of like different events that are happening in the world, and I prefer it this way. Like I like the not knowing. Instead of being you unlock this next waypoint and now you unlock this next waypoint, and there are other things you could do on the side, but you're wasting your time if you do those because that's the thread that you have to follow. So anything that you do outside of that, you're consciously doing it. Now it's more like I don't know. I'm just not sure. There's a whole bunch of threads. You see the threads. I wish they didn't tell you the percentage of completion on them. That kind of removes that feeling a little bit, but I ignore it. I try to ignore it as much as possible. And I don't know when these threads are starting, when you're able to make progress in them again. And I like that. I like that. I feel like the world is more alive and that there's actually it's happening around me instead of waiting for me to come so that it could move on. If you know what.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that feeling of being like, do you think this will progress the story, or is this just because it's usually like a mission, like go help this person do a thing,
Yes.
and then like everything's on fire and story is happening, and you're like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very good.
I can see how some people would like that less, and that's would be a very fair opinion to have. But for me, this is what I want to see more open world games try to do. I can't
Right.
think of another one that really. I mean, Breath of the Wild kind of did this, not by having like a lot of story, but just by giving you a lot of things to do in the world and giving you agency of where to go next. But the feeling is similar story wise. Not the rest of the exploration is completely different,
Right.
but that feeling of I get to choose what I do next. It's actually special. I also started playing Cyber Shadow. It's the Yacht Club Games next game, I think. After
Oh,
yeah,
Oh,
Shovel Knight. I played it for a couple of hours, 2-3 hours. It feels like Shovel Knight in a lot of ways. Like those tight controls that feel good. You know like the you feel like your skill matters big time. But
Osama, describe the game for us. What is Cyber Shadow exactly?
so Cyber Shadow, thank you. Actually, I should have led with that. Cyber Shadow is an homage. Like if you played Shovel Knight, you know that Shovel Knight is like the 8-bit game that really wasn't, but that makes you feel like it's an 8-bit game. Like it feels instantly nostalgic, as if you've played this game in the past, or that this game came out as an NES game in the past. And you're just unlocking those memories you've had. If you're as old as I am and you were young enough to play those NES games, that feeling of nostalgia is there. Cyber Shadow has that. It's a ninja game where it kind of feels like the old school Ninja Gaiden a little bit, and that's pretty much it. And that's where the similarities between the two is that they both feel like tight controls. Like it's a 2D platformer with 8-bit graphics, or like 8-bit with quotations. I did the quotations. I just didn't tell you about that. uh, but that's where there's one thing that's missing. Where in Shovel Knight, you had a shovel as your main weapon, and all the mechanics that came from it were shovel-like mechanics, where it felt like you had this indestructible shovel that you're able to deflect projectiles with, you're able to dig with, you're able to there's this charm, there's personality, and the character because of that was memorable, like incredibly memorable. And all of the supporting cast, all of the other villains that you fight were in a very Mega Man-ish way. They were unique and interesting and memorable in their own light. Cyber Shadow, I'm still early on, but there's none of that. The charm isn't there.
Okay.
It feels like a generic. I cannot remember what the ninja looks like if I don't look at a screenshot, because he just looks like a ninja. I can't remember what the enemies look like because they just feel like insectoid robot things.
right.
It's so generic and disappointing, but the game feels good. So I'm gonna keep playing, and I'll let you know if things get better in terms of that charm. I'm waiting for a twist to happen, and that you're not really a ninja, but you're something else, and your only actions are jump and slash with weapon.
Right.
And then eventually, a little bit later on, and I actually spent 5 minutes trying to figure out how to throw a shuriken, because I'm like, come on, every game at least starts you off with a shuriken. And spoiler, but that was unlocked a little bit later. Like super bare bones, super bare bones.
Well, let's hope it grows, I guess.
I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, it's a finished game, so it's not like I'm waiting for DLC. I'm just waiting to see if there's a progression of anything. But I'm waiting for that charm. So far, I fought like 2 bosses, and I couldn't tell you exactly what they look like anymore. Already, they just
So when I played Shovel Knight, I think like Shovel Knight reminded me a lot of that. Like other than how it plays, it has a lot of like Mega Man kind of feel.
Yes.
And the music was incredible.
Yes.
How's the music in this one?
The music is
it matching?
incredible, and you have that Mega Man feel as well. Like the
Okay.
intention, like the intentionality of the jump, like where you're committed to the jump, that kind of feeling, where you don't have super air control, and like not as much as you would have in more recent games. That's there, where everything is deliberate. It feels good. You don't feel like you're cheated. You feel like I missed this. I could have gotten this. The window was there. So that's what keeps me playing. Like I'm actually enjoying the game, but like if I turn it off, it's out of my mind instantly.
Right.
Well,
Which is not the case for Shovel
Well,
Knight.
you're also reading like 7 books at the same time, right? So,
there's barely enough space in your mind. It's filled with so many other things that are half.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll take that.
I just realized another game that I've run on my PC to really properly benchmark it. I played a few hours of Post Void again. Did either of you play Post Void?
Post Void. No, I haven't.
Do you like first-person shooters?
Yes.
I do. Yes.
Do you have no sensitivity to flashing colors on your screen?
No.
No.
Okay, then Post Void is if you take a first-person shooter, add every VFX that you can possibly think of, like every single one, it's all there, and then make it a speedrunning game where you die if you don't kill enemies.
Oh.
And
Okay.
the entire point is just to get to the end of the level. A level is between 15 and 30 seconds long. And
Nice.
you just run through headshotting things, sliding, running, jumping, getting to the end of the level. I think a full run is probably not even like it's minutes.
Okay.
But it's going to take you like months to get good enough. Yeah, it's quite special. It's really intense, but if you're up for sort of like a Devil Daggers-esque experience, I can really recommend it. Most of all, I've played this months ago when it originally came out, and I just felt like quick shooty game, and I'm entirely hooked again. So
Well, I like that feel of like constantly move and shoot, kind of like do the new Doom games get when you're like you want to stay like once you're in the zone of one of those Doom games, you're just moving around and shooting all the time. And I like that this game is basically that. But from the pictures that I'm seeing, looks like on acid.
yeah, no, it's really intense. It's really good in that way. Like if you pull off if you pull off a headshot, you don't even wait for the body to drop or anything. Like you don't have time for that. You just keep moving and just keep shooting, and it's this really intense sort of like zen-like state of extreme violence. Yeah, I don't know. You just keep moving.
There's Hotline Miami vibes coming from like what I'm seeing as well
Right.
on the Steam page.
Right. Yeah, it has a little bit of that. It's super fast. You don't have time to think. You just got to keep moving. It has a bit of a roguelike structure, but it's just really fun. The gun feel, even though there's very few guns, is like Destiny worthy, right?
Oh,
Like
wow.
the gun is super satisfying. Like getting a headshot is super satisfying.
That's high praise.
Yeah,
I mean,
man. Especially with Rami and Destiny.
right. Bungie is, in my view, remains masters of. I mean, I'm wrapping up the Destiny season right now, and I want to get all my trophies. Bungie does this really cool thing where every season has a bunch of goals, and if you complete the goals, you can buy a physical pin.
Oh,
Like
nice.
this pretty heavy metal. I don't know what kind of metal it is, but like seal in like a cute little box with like it looks very fancy. It probably isn't, but it looks very fancy. And I collect those like for most seasons where I see the goals and I'm like, oh, I can do that. I try and do that. But right now, like all that's left for me is just grind, right? Like all I'm doing is just like, okay, well, I need to get 50 of that. I need to get 20 of that. But the thing is, I don't care because jumping around and shooting stuff is just fun. I don't know if we have time for this, but I did do the raid.
Oh, tell us more about that.
Oh, we do have time. I love Fauzi as a host.
Yeah, that's like
super good.
It's relaxed timekeeping for this podcast.
Nice. This is going to give me much more editing time on the other end. But, no, so the raid is... So it's called the Deepstone Crypt. It's a thing that the Destiny lore has sort of... A place that the Destiny lore has long been referring to. It is an absolute highlight. It is...
Yeah.
Yeah, it is staggeringly good.
Those raids are usually super difficult if you don't have people that have been through them or know what they're doing. Like the exploration phase of figuring the raid out is like dozens of hours from what I've seen. Like some of my own personal experiences, even with
Right. I think
older raids.
the top cruise took about 5.5 hours to figure it out.
Oh, wow, nice.
But it is like the thing is, Bungie excels at gunplay, right? That's what they're good at. That's what they do. The sense of like feel, the sense of impact, and the raid has an enormous amount of fun encounters, but mostly it has really good breathing.
Mm-hmm.
It like slows down and speeds up. It has these incredible moments of pacing. There's one moment after what is probably the most complicated fight, I think, in the raid. There's just this like 3-minute calm down section where you're just like jumping around, beautiful views, beautiful music. That the person that was like Sherpaing, the person that was like guiding us through the raid, just before we went through the door to that section, just went like, you all might want to mute yourself and turn up your music.
Oh wow, that's
right?
cool.
It's that kind of moment. Like as soon as it kicks in, you're like, wow. Just a sequence of highlights for Bungie right there. Like everything they're good at, doing it at their best. I'm completely enamored with that raid. I can't wait to run again.
These things are always a highlight, actually. Like even like the ones I've met, like because there was updates that were out after I stopped playing or something like this. I always watch them, and just watching them and watching players experience them, go like, Bungies are masters of their trade with these kind of stuff.
Right.
I dabbled a little bit with the Messenger, but just for an hour or so. But that game is solid, man.
Like, I love it.
I missed it somehow. What is it, 2 years ago or something like this?
Yeah.
When it came out?
I'm in the credits of that game. As a special thanks, but still am. It still counts. I give feedback,
Yeah, no, it counts. It counts.
You're like an expert on ninja games. If I make a ninja game, I have to have Osama have a look at it.
Well, that's the thing. I'm a little bit biased when playing Cyber Shadow because I feel, and I'm actually a little bit. I'm very biased because I feel the Messenger did the Ninja Gaiden better. The old game made new thing. But again, I finished the Messenger. I did not finish Cyber Shadow, so I'm going to give it more time. But right now, I can't shake that feeling. I think a lot of it has to do with just how good Shovel Knight was and how much I loved it. But I think the expectations,
it's such a high peak.
Exactly. But the Messenger is great. If someone else missed it, I would highly recommend it, especially the beginning. I know there's a lull near the middle where some people were thrown off, but even if you play until that point and stop, you'll be extremely satisfied.
Right.
Yeah, I loved it. It's on Game Pass right now, so if you have that, you can just download it. And one of the things that that haunts me in my dreams sometimes about the original Ninja Gaiden is the knockback, right? I just remember just jumping in the air like, oh god, please don't hit the bat or the whatever projectile hit my way, and then I am bounce back into another bounce back into my death.
Right.
Sometimes a jump that I knew I would land will just domino effect into a disaster.
Right.
And in the Messenger, you have an upgrade that can get you to get rid of this stuff. And that was such a relief.
You were just finally revenge for my childhood.
Oh my god, man. Ninja Gaiden. I don't think I ever finished that as a kid, to be honest.
Oh, I never
so many
did.
games I never finished.
Yeah, I came close. I played that game to death. I knew it by heart. I still remember a lot of the levels right now and the sequence to get through. But no, they made it impossible to finish at the end.
Right.
These are some of those nightmare games that are gonna come out. I think there's another one coming out this year, Ghosts and Goblins. They're remaking that. That was also a nightmare game for me that I love a lot. Actually, on that note, that's all the time we have, and a little bit more,
bit extra overtime,
and a little bit extra. You get your bang for your buck, which is more Habibi time. I had a blast doing this. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you everybody who's been subscribing and sending us feedback. Keep that feedback coming, and talk to you next week, inshallah.
Inshallah. Salam alaikum.
Salam.
That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I am Fawzi Masmar, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Fawzi Masmar. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Rami Ismail, who you can find on Twitter at THA_Rami. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. Intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubayla, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcasting service, or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening. Salam.